So what do I say to a seller on the phone when they call me? Guys, it's Rick in here. And today I'm going to go over everything you need to communicate to your seller when you have a phone call. So before I get started, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the best information available on wholesaling on the internet today. So how do we talk to sellers, specifically on the phone? Guys, understand this first. When you talk to a seller on the phone, you can't see them and they can't see you. So it's critically important that you are hyper-focused on listening to your sellers. Their tonality, are they loud? Do they speak soft? What's the speed of their conversation? Are they sluggish? Are they super excited? You've got to find out, because without seeing them in person, you have to take the clues. The only thing you have is their voice. It's important that you understand and you take the subtle clues, how your seller's feeling on the phone. Guys, you can only hear it. So you have to really lean in and make sure when you're talking to them, you're smiling, because believe it or not, when you smile, you're just more agreeable, you sound nicer, and it's infectious. So these are some basic rules. So let's talk about these phone calls. So maybe you're doing reverse driving for dollars. Maybe you're doing some sort of direct mail. Maybe you have some door hangers or some literature or some business cards, and it doesn't matter. These are inbound calls. So these are calls coming into you and you're answering them. So rule number one is a tough one. You don't forget this one, because so many gurus just skip this part. Answer your phones live. How do you feel when you call a business and it rings like 6 or 9 times and then it goes to voicemail? You probably don't want to do business with them. The reality is your sellers, if they've got 4 or 5 offerings, multiple postcards, door hangers, business cards, they're going to keep calling until they connect with someone, because when they connect with someone, they feel like that person cares. So if they've called 5 people and you're the 6th one, they expect you to hang up. They're actually kind of surprised you're answering the phone. Take full advantage of it, okay? Surround your client. Go, listen, I'm so glad you called me. I'm going to ask you a few questions about the property. We're going to talk, but do me a favor, don't call anyone else. I know I can take care of you. So what I want to do is wrap my arms around that seller and make sure they don't call anyone else. And that's rule number one. You can't do it if you don't answer your phones live. Guys, make it a family affair. Use your family, use your friends, use your coworkers. There's so many softwares out there to make sure you can answer the phone. You can set them on schedules. I'm not talking about answering the phone at 1 o'clock in the morning, but from sun up to sundown, you guys should be answering your phones. That is one of the key ingredients to really engage your sellers, okay? So the next part we're going to get into is we're just going to build rapport with them. Rapport starts from the minute they call you. How do I build rapport? Ask open-ended questions, open, friendly questions. How's the weather today? How are you feeling? And then just get them to warm up to you. And remember, the more they will open up to you, you can get them to put down that shield they have on them. Every seller, and every person for that matter, has a defense mechanism when they deal with people they don't know of, and they're going to guard. Your job is to bring it down. How do you bring it down? You build rapport with your sellers. You engage them. You be the light of their day, okay? You have to be enthusiastic. You have to ask open-ended questions. So once we have that, the main beef, and this is what you're here to learn from me today, is how to qualify your sellers, okay? I'm going to simplify this for you. Do exactly as I say. It works every time. I've been doing this 20 years, okay? Write this acronym down, MCTP, okay? So an acronym is nothing more than taking the first letter of a word you want to memorize and then putting those first letters so you can easily memorize a script, a saying, or whatever it is. So many of you guys are so used to having like these full page scripts. Sometimes I see 2 and 3 pages. I don't know how you memorize any of this stuff. I'm telling you, kick that out. What we want to do is turn your script into a conversation. If you can have a conversation, it's much more realistic and you're more genuine, you're more authentic, you're more yourself, and that's what the seller needs to work with you. Remember, how do I gain rapport? Rapport is the ability to connect with one and gain their trust. So you have to make it like you're talking to your friend, okay? If you had a choice of doing business with a friend that's reputable and as opposed to a stranger calling you, you would go to the friend every time. So think about this as connecting with the sellers, becoming their friend, and then helping them walk through the funnel on how to get their house sold and how to help them out of their own mess. Okay. Remember, you're the expert. You're here to help them. The other rule I want you to understand is let the seller do as much as talking as possible. The more the seller talks, the better off you're going to do. The seller should be talking 20 to 30% more than you, hands down, with your eyes shut. Matter of fact, they should dominate the conversation. How do they dominate? By answering the questions that you have. So back to the questions. MCTP. The first one is motivation, and it's the most important. Remember, if there's no motivation in the seller, you do not have a deal. You're wasting your time. I'm just telling you this. Do not try to force them to sell to you. It won't work. If there's no motivation, if there's not maybe they're downsizing, loss of job, maybe there's a death in the family, maybe there's a financial situation, maybe there's just so much deferred maintenance they can't handle it. There's got to be something to inspire them to sell to you for a discounted price. That's called motivation. So we're not going to ask, hey, Mr. Seller, what's your motivation? You're simply going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, why are you selling this property? And just be quiet and let them answer the question. Hopefully they're going to give you a response like, I've lost my job or this. And it's okay if they don't tell you off the bat. Remember, they're putting up their guard. Your job is to bring it down. By engaging these questions, hopefully this will walk you through the process. The next one is C, which stands for condition of the property. Now, sometimes the seller go ahead and volunteers this when you ask about the motivation, but say, Mr. Seller, what's going on with the property? Does it need any work? What kind of condition it's in? And once again, be quiet and let them unload on you. And remember, you're targeting properties that have problems. So this spot, you want to hear about the problems on the property. Not all sellers will come out and tell you right off the bat, but make them comfortable and go, yeah, I understand. I know it's tough. Everything's expensive these days. And you're just trying to agree with them to make them comfortable in working with you. Okay. The third one, the T, is for time frame. Okay. And why is that important? Because in my experience in 20 years, I've never got a deal from a seller in a quick fashion that did not have a plan and a place on where they're going to go and a time frame. So a couple examples. Mr. Seller, if we do a deal today, where are you going to be relocating to? And you want to hear his unfiltered answer. And if he says, listen, I'm going to live with my sister. I have to move there by the last day of this month. I have a moving truck all set. I have my change of address, everything ready to go. That is a great sign, and you really want to move forward with that client. As opposed to one goes, you know what, I haven't really thought about it. I don't know where I'm going to go. If they say something like that, they're 90 to 180 days away from doing a deal. And it doesn't mean they're not a good lead. It just means they're going to require more follow-up, and you're going to have to put them a little bit on the back burner and go and refocus on motivated sellers that are ready to sell within the next 30 days. So we've done motivation, we've done condition, we've done time frame. The last one, the P, you got it. It's price. And price alone is not a motivating factor. Honestly, it's just a number, but it's part of the qualifying questions that you need to have to gauge your seller's motivation for selling this property at a discounted price. So I don't want you to use the word price, ask, offer, anything like that. Those are all realtor comment. You're simply going to say, Mr. Seller, what do you need to get for this property? Just like that. And now sometimes they'll go, what do you mean by that, Rick? I go, listen, if you had to sell it today, what do you think you'd have to let it go for? We're trying to get that bottom line number and get his subconscious response. Whereas if you ask the word ask or price, it's kind of a wish list, and you switch over to the realtor side and you're usually going to get an inflated answer. So we've gone through motivation, condition, time frame, and price. Okay. And once you get all that data, you now have to make a decision. Am I going to move forward with this client and set up an appointment? Either I'm going to meet them physically, or I'm going to do a virtual appointment, or am I going to put them on a follow-up, or am I just going to move on with them? You know, there's no motivation. There's no point in going and working with them. Maybe you have to refer them to your realtor, and then you can work with them on that side and get a small marketing fee on the back end. You have to make that decision. Your job as the wholesaler is to use the phone to qualify your clients. And keep in mind, most sellers are going to be disqualified before they're qualified, because we're only looking for a small percentage of those types of real estate transactions. What type? People that have a motivating factor. Okay. Without motivation, guys, you do not get a good wholesale deal. If you skip that part, you're going to wind up in realtor world, and I don't want you to wind up there. So, guys, make sure you use the phone when the call comes in. Make sure you engage them. Make sure you build a rapport, and make sure you go through the 4 qualifying questions: MCTP, motivation, condition, time frame, and price. And from there, you have to make a decision. Am I moving forward with the seller? Am I putting him a follow-up? Am I going to refer him to a realtor, or I'm just going to kill the deal? There's no motivation. That's what you want to use your qualifications for. That's what you use the phone for. It saves you a lot of time, gas, and energy. And you only want to focus on motivated sellers. That's how you get great deals in wholesaling. You guys tell me, are you using these techniques to qualify your sellers? And if not, what techniques are you using? I would love to hear. Guys, this is Rick. Do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks again.